Namaskar. Welcome to this session. We are looking at the prologue or enunciation to Kaivalya Pada, the fourth and final chapter of Yoga Sutras. And we were at a point where we said in the last session that everyone wants some kind of mukti. Dukkha mukti, bandhana mukti, ashaktata mukti, alpatva mukti, ichha vighata mukti, maryaditata mukti, nirbalata mukti, vipannata mukti, durbalata mukti, daurбhiksha mukti, ajnana mukti, ashakyata mukti, akshamata mukti, vaifalya mukti, durmukhata mukti, nishakta mukti. So, we find ourselves limited. We find ourselves shackled. And we find ourselves vexed, tormented, harassed by various reasons. And we certainly want liberation from that. And all those kinds of bondages which are felt. Different people feel different kinds of bondages and shackles. Different people feel different kinds of limitations. And therefore, each one of us at least dream of freedom. Freedom from something. And the moksha purushartha, the fourth purushartha, considers that. What is it that we try to be free from? What is the cause for us to be bound? What is the cause for us to be having a bondage? What is the cause for us to have limitations? So to end those limitations, bondages on one hand, and also the reasons and the causes and factors which put us in bondage and limitation, worries and tormentations. So both the cause and effect of all that is dreadening us are countered in moksha purushartha. It's not only that we overcome the limitations, overcome the bondage, overcome the pettiness, overcome the incapacities, overcome the inabilities, but even we target the causes of all those. And that is called moksha purushartha. It's not only ending the bondage, ending the limitedness, but to end the cause of limitedness. So, if we also attend to the cause of limitedness, it would not again come back. If we neutralize the cause of our limitation, causes of our problems, causes of our limitations, causes of our bondage, then it won't come back. So, moksha purushartha should be understood that way. It is not only neutralizing those conditions of which we are dreaded, or on account of which we are limited, on account of which we are incapacitated, but even the cause of all that. And that is moksha purushartha. So, we are proceeding in the topic which we commenced in the last session. We, the worldly people, called prapanchika, samsarika, mundane, and laukiki buddhi. We have laukiki buddhi. Our buddhi is called laukiki buddhi. We are not wise and sagacious people to have the paramarthika buddhi. We all have laukika buddhi. And Lifelong we have a battle with some kind of sorrow, pain, limitation, limitedness. And that is moksha purushartha. Our fight towards that, toward the cause of that, is moksha purushartha. And therefore it is purushartha for all of us. Like dharma, artha, kama is for all of us. Many people think that the moksha is not for you and me. Moksha is to be considered by some people who are on very high rung of consciousness. As much as dharma, artha, kama is for every one of us without exception whatsoever, the moksha purushartha is also for all of us in whatsoever manner and to without any whatsoever exception. So this must be first engraved on our mind. We should not feel that it is not meant for us. What is meant for us is only kama. What is meant for us is only artha. No, this is not right. Nobody says the kama and artha is not my right. Some of us might say dharma is also my right. I must be in virtuosity, I must be in dharma. But those who sometimes disregard dharma, without exception, everyone regards the artha purushartha and kama purushartha. But it is too naive to consider that way. The point is, all the four purusharthas in whatsoever form has to be pursued, whether you are profane or whether you are atheist or whether you are a skeptic or whether you embrace any faith, or today it is religion, or whether you don't have regard to any religion, yet the four purusharthas are absolutely essential and necessary. So therefore we are now handling and tackling the purusharthas and particularly now the moksha purushartha. So we are in laukika buddhi. Laukika buddhi means worldly wisdom. And we have some superhumans with supra consciousness, higher consciousness than we mortals have. And for them, the moksha purushartha is with paramarthik buddhi. While ours is laukika buddhi, we will look at moksha purushartha or any purushartha from laukika buddhi point of view. While there are some of us, or there are some people of lofty levels of consciousness and conscience that they will consider all these purusharthas on paramarthik plane, so also the moksha will be considered on paramarthik plane by those. Now, as students of the subject, we cannot be only practical minded to see that we see whatever is applicable for us and not take an objective view of what it is actually, the purusharthas are actually. So it is important for every one of us to really ponder over what is dharma for we on laukiki plane with laukiki buddhi, what is dharma for those who are having a paramarthik vritti, what is artha for we, the commoners, laukiki buddhi endowed people, and what is it for those who have paramarthika buddhi. So also is the case of kama, and so also is the case of moksha purushartha. As students, we must study the both sides of it, or both the dimensions and perspectives of it. Although we are with Laukiki Buddhi and we don't have Paramarthika Buddhi, it doesn't mean that we should not consider, at least theoretically and objectively, what is the Purushartha, each of the Purushartha for one who has Paramarthika Vritti and Paramarthika Buddhi. So, that is the aspect of this formal education. We don't just be practical minded as to what is suitable for me, what is applicable for me, and not bother about. As and when we cross over to higher level, we should be considering that even now and not wait to cross the levels of our Laukiki Buddhi and Laukiki Vritti. And therefore, objectively, we are also understanding that which is perhaps not pertinent to us now. So, who are these people who are of higher levels of consciousness? They are Santa, Mahanta, Yogi, Gnani, Bhakta, and Mahapurusha, Mahamanava, superhumans. So they have different concept of mukti, which we will have to understand. Just as an information we will have to understand, and then whatever is applicable for us, suitable for us, that we must be practicing. So we will be trying to understand the concept of mukti now, which we are dealing with, both for we people who are with Laukiki Buddhi, Laukiki Vritti, and who are on Laukiki plane, worldly plane of mortals. We will also consider those who are on a higher rung, those who are endowed with supra consciousness or higher levels of consciousness than we have. Now, a common man, worldly man, identifies that we have sorrows in our life. Some people think that their life is sorrow profused. Some people think the sorrow is a visiting condition. It visits our life, or we visit the sorrow domain. So sorrow comes once in a while for some of us. So some of us think that sorrow is happening. Or some of us think that we are in a sorrow profused state. Anyway, the sorrow of some kind or the other is definitely afflicting us and infecting our life. So, this is our case. While it is different case for, as just now I referred to, those who have Paramarthika Vritti, they also identify sorrows, and their idea concept of sorrow is different than our idea concept of sorrows. Now, what is our concept of sorrow is something that we considered in the last session and beginning of this session. So, that is dukkha mukti. We have sorrows, we want to be free from sorrows. So we have identified sorrows. So we have identified sorrows, we have identified bandha, we have identified bondage, we have identified shackles, we have identified limitations. So some kind or the other, we will be identifying this in any plane of consciousness. That is dukkha, bandhana, ashaktata, इच्छा विघात, मर्यादितता, निर्बलता, दुर्बलता, अशक्तता, विपन्नता, अल्पत्वम, दौर्भिक्ष्यम, अज्ञानम, ashakyata, akshamata, vaiphalyam, durmukhata, nishaktata. So all these things do come in our life. For some of us, we feel that there is a profusion of this, and for some of us, we feel that otherwise my life is happy-go-lucky. I have no problems. It is what some clan of people would say, would have assessment of their life, that I am happy, I am contented. But there is always infection of these sorrows, etc., which just now I listed. So, on Laukika plane, we identify all these. It doesn't mean that those who are on higher plane of consciousness are also like us. Then, how do you say that they are on higher plane of consciousness? Their problems are different. What is sorrow to you and me, and what is sorrow to a super conscious human being is different. Not that our sorrows are their sorrows. Sometimes our sorrows are their pleasures. Our pleasures are their sorrows. But they have sorrows as well. And therefore moksha sadhana, mokshopaya is also there for even those people who are on higher rung of consciousness with paramarthika vritti and paramarthika buddhi. So, well, all the philosophical systems that we have in India, particularly Bharatavarsha, we have Vedic, Avedic philosophies, Astic, Nastic philosophies. So all the philosophies have handled this problem and given prominence to this problem, which is generally termed as dukkham. It is generally termed as sorrow. Because all kinds of sorrow or any kinds of sorrow emanates from what we just now listed, limitation, etc. I recall the Sankhya Darshana speaks about moksha as atyantika dukkha nivrutti, total and complete, comprehensive end of any kind of sorrow. Any kind of sorrow and every kind of sorrow itself is mukti for Sankhya philosophy. So the Parama Purushartha for Sankhya philosophy is Atyantika Dukkha Nivrutti. Or it is also called Trividha Dukkha Nivrutti. Philosophers describe it as Trividha Dukkha Nivrutti. What is the Trividha Dukkha Nivrutti? Adibhautika, Adidaivika, Adhyatmika Dukkha Nivrutti. So, the moksha purushartha for some of the philosophers is Atyantika Dukkha Nivrutti itself is moksha purushartha. Now this sounds little negative. Just end of all sorrow itself is postulated by them as Parama Purushartha. But they have their own justifications. Because many times in our Laukik plane we say, not being sad doesn't mean that we are happy. Not having sorrow doesn't mean that we have delights. But Sankhyas have more precisely called it Atyantika, absolute end of sorrow. Not the sorrow that we only experience, but absolute end of sorrow, and the cause of such sorrow itself is mukti or moksha or kaivalya. And the student of Darshana Shastra will realize the Shat Darshanas have their perspective, their definition of moksha. All the six darshanas are moksha shastras. They have concept of moksha, they have described the moksha, and they have their own definition to offer for what is moksha. So Shad darshanas have Shadvidha moksha concept idea. So at some stage we need to understand these sixfold ideas and concepts of moksha. So anyway, now to proceed on this topic, as I just now a while ago said, some people say that our life is full of sorrows. Sorrows means all kinds of those limitations where we are tormented. Bondage, incapacity, inability, ashakti, daurbalyam, etc. etc. So some people say the life is full of sorrows for some people, and it is indeed true. We see some people sunk in sorrows. The sorrows are engulfing them totally, or the sorrows are up to brim for some people. So they are sarvataha dukkhagrasta, sarvashaha dukkhagrasta, sarvada dukkhagrasta, sarvada sarvatha sarvashaha dukkhagrasta. Now these are predicates which are worth understanding. Sarvataha sarvashaha, sarvada, sada sarvada, sarvatha and sarvashaha. These are beautiful words in Sanskrit. Some people say that the dukkha, the sorrow is mountainous, absolutely mountainous, or monstrous, or ocean-like. The ocean is enormous depth and enormous extent. Similarly, the dukkha has enormous, unfathomable depth and immeasurable extent. So the sorrows are sagaravat, the dukkhas are parvatapray. So there are some mortals like us who are enormously attacked by the dukkha. When I say dukkha, all forms which I often listed for you, they all give us sorrow, and therefore dukkha should be understood in that way and not just a sensation of pain, but generally the sorrow. So it would be a kind of piece of advice to those people who think that they are sunk in sorrows, they are engulfed by sorrows, they have sorrows up to brim, they are totally subsumed and permeated by sorrows. They need to be told here, listen to this. This is what the satsanga based on Srimad Ramayanam tells us. Listen to this. So those who feel that we are enormously submerged, permeated, pervaded, engulfed by sorrows and sorrows and sorrows, and the life is only sorrows and sorrows and sorrows and nothing else, it is advised that they should look at life of Sri Rama in Srimad Ramayanam. Rama was Dharmavatara. Rama, Sri Ram was personification of Dharma. Murtiman Dharma. Sri Ram was Murtiman Dharma. He was Dharma Avatar. So one should try to compare the sorrows of our life. Those who think that they have enormous sorrows, they should compare their sorrows with the sorrows of Bhagwan Sri Rama in Srimad Ramayanam. Then one will realize, one will have a solace that in front of sorrows of Sri Rama, my sorrows are paltry bit. And therefore we need to look at of life of Sri Rama from Srimad Ramayanam. Those who have not really read about it or have not got oriented to Srimad Ramayanam, it is humble request that it should be done. One should be familiar with the life of Sri Rama. And then one will realize that our sorrows are almost no sorrows compared to sorrows of Sri Rama. So Sri Rama put up with the sorrows which no mortal ever on the planet had put up, has put up, or will put up. Rama should be looked from that dimension as to what was the quantum of sorrows he had encountered in his life. And then you will see that your sorrow is just a worm. Those who say my sorrow is mountainous, my sorrow is oceanic, my sorrow is unlimited, immeasurable, they themselves will realize that our sorrows are like tiny worms, perhaps microscopic worms, compared to sorrows of Sri Rama. So Sri Rama gave an example for us that no one ever had or has or will encounter such sorrows. He did that. That is why he is Purushottama. No one ever can have sorrows to the extent of sorrows that Sri Rama had in his life. It was sorrow-fraught life. And no one ever so far or hereafter will be having that amount of sorrows which Sri Rama had. Therefore, he will be always an icon. His enormous prowess will be appreciated once we know how the sorrows came his way, what was the magnitude of sorrows which came his way, and how did he come out of those sorrows, how did he encounter the sorrows, how did he put up with sorrows. So we will all have a solace, even if we think that our life is absolutely sorrowful. It is advised that they should take a reading of Srimad Ramayanam and look at the life of Sri Rama. So this is about those who think that life is profusion of sorrows, permeated by sorrows, stuffed up with sorrow, sorrows up to brim. Life is nothing but sorrows and sorrows and sorrows and sorrows and sorrows. It is advised that they should look at Srimad Ramayanam and Rama's encounter with sorrows. No one of us ever encountered it and will encounter it. Rama will remain Sri Rama. Rama will remain as Purushottama. The point is, our sorrows are by Laukika Buddhi. So we look at the sorrows which are construed by our Laukika Buddhi. But there are Jnanis, Mahamanavas, superhuman beings, lofty human beings having super consciousness or supra consciousness, they also consider something as sorrows. And for them, what really is the sorrow is not the pain that comes in your life, failure that comes in your life, dishonor, disrespect, intimidations come your way. We have so many forms of sorrows. Just try to uh, figure out how the sorrows come to us. How many kinds of sorrows are there? As I said, the philosophers have said Trivida Dukkha, Adi Bhautik, Adhyatmik, Adi Daivik. But if we try to take assessment of our sorrows, we will realize what we call as sorrows. Why something is sorrow? What is termed as sorrows? What is considered as sorrows? This is there for everyone to have a view about this concept and idea and experience of sorrow. But the people on the higher rung, they are dreaded of Janana Marana Chakra. For them, the greatest sorrow is Janana Marana Chakra, the wheel of birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. The wheel itself is a sorrow. Now, we commoners are not bothered about it. We have no memory about our sorrows prior to our present incarnation. We have not even slightest clue of what sorrows we had in our previous incarnations. So, the life and death cycle is not really a sorrow for us, but some on a higher rung of consciousness. Indeed, this is the sorrow for them, that the rotation of the wheel and constant movement between birth and death and birth and death and birth and death and birth and death itself is sorrow for those who are on a higher plane of consciousness. So Janma Marana Chakra, it's a great dreadening aspect for some of them, which is not our problem, which is not a botheration for us. We have least botheration about the life yet to happen or the life hereafter or life here before, because they are the past sorrows or the sorrows of past life they are all veiled, concealed by lack of memory, vismruti. And we are not at all bothered about sorrows which are coming our way in our next incarnation. We least bother about sorrows after our death and in the new birth, next birth. So, the major culprit for some people on higher rung is the Janma Mrityu Chakra, the wheel of Janana Maranam, the wheel of birth and death itself is a greatest dread for them, which is not at all dreadening for us. That's the difference between Laukika Buddhi and something that is above it. So, we believe in Purvottara Janma. We do believe in the bygone lives, the previous existences, and we are also aware of our posterior existences. But they are not dreading at all. So we accept Purvottara life. We accept Purvottara incarnations, that is, incarnations, retrospective times and prospective times. We accept them, but they don't bother us. We don't see any sorrow potential in our lives yet to come, future lives. We don't identify any support, locus, ashraya, adhara, or mood, roots. The past lives have gone into oblivion. So, past life is gone into oblivion, and future lives we are not going to get a pre-show. We never get a pre-show of future lives. And therefore we are not able to target dukkhashraya, dukkha karanam. While wiser people, sagacious people are able to identify the cause of such sorrows, prospective sorrows, we don't have to bother about atita sorrows. Our sorrows of previous incarnations, we need to least bother about it. But at some stage we have to bother about sorrows of prospective incarnations of ours. The point is we don't get a pre-show. Now, since we don't get the pre-show, there is no dread about our future existences. And the cause of any kind of sorrow, limitedness, pain, incapacity, etc., etc., it is all in Janma Mrityu Chakra. The wheel of Janana Marana contains the causes of all sorrows. Now, if the causes are to be neutralized, this wheel must be neutralized. And that is why those who are on higher rung philosophically, they think about measures to end the wheel of birth and death. While we don't bother about it, we do not know that we are caught in the wheel. We might believe, we will accept that yes, we are in the wheel. We existed from time without beginning, and we are going to exist time without end. So we accept it. But we are least bothered about our sorrows of the past life, because that is gone into oblivion. And we are not bothered about the sorrows which are for our prospective incarnations, existences, because we don't get the pre-show. But the philosophers infer that. Not that they get a pre-show. They don't have to get the pre-show. They infer and deduce the seed of limitations, the seed of bondage, the seed of sorrows in the very wheel. If the wheel is crossed over or the wheel is set aside, then there is no problem at all. So the cause of all sorrows, any kind of sorrow, whether laukika sorrow or paramarthika sorrow, it has seed in Janana Marana Chakram. And therefore philosophers in India thought about ending this wheel, or getting across the wheel, or leaving the wheel behind, or ending the wheel itself, dismantling the wheel itself as a permanent solution for our problems, limitations, and sorrows. Now, for this purpose, the Satsanga, Sadhana Sangha, Shastra Sangha definitely give us a roadmap. Otherwise, if you do not know what is your future incarnation, you do not know the road of it, the route of it. R-O-U-T-E, route, the path of it, the road of it. What are you going to do? And therefore, Satsanga, Sadhana Sangha, Shastra Sangha comes very handy, where we get some kind of prabodha. We get bodha, prabodha. And therefore we think of some measures to be taken for the life prospective, the life hereafter. And that is what Adhyatma sadhana does, Paramartha sadhana does. So let me just relate you a passage which comes in Satsanga. Satsanga, we are told, see, if once you endorse to the idea that we are going to be having birth after birth, birth after birth, birth after birth, or birth after death, and it is going to be continuing ad infinitum, then the Acharya, the revered person who is giving satsanga, tells us, in every life you are going to be innocent child. In every life you are going to commence your life by being innocent child. Even if one thinks I am very intelligent person and super intelligent person, when you are going for your next life, again you will be a very innocent baby. We all forget, even those who think we are very rational person, intellectual person, we forget what we were in our babyhood and childhood. Every one of us was ignorant. Every one of us was innocent. Today you might be highly rational person, or you might be having profuse rationality, reason, etc. in your life, intellectual maturity in your life. Yet every life commences with a stage where we are all infants and we are all in Balyavastha, and Balyavastha has innocence, and because of innocence we can imagine what we might be doing, what we have done due to innocence, and what we will be doing due to innocence. So invariably you are going to be in the phase of innocence, with the wheel of life and death rotating and rotating and rotating endlessly. So we will be having the phase of innocence, ignorance, like a child has, or a baby has, or as an infant has. The total dependence that the infant has. The absolute powerlessness that a baby has. So that is going to come in every life. And then we slowly cross over from infanthood to childhood, childhood to teenage, teenage to youth, and then adulthood, and then old age. Now, strangely, almost without exception, all of us will say, I was unwise in my previous stage of life. I did every kind of innocent, ignorant things in my earlier life, our earlier phase of life. So we realize we can all have memory what we did in our previous stage of life. So after childhood we start remembering our life from a point of view, or from a point in childhood we start remembering our life, and then retrospectively we realize we were indeed not intelligent, we were indeed stupid, we are indeed unwise, we are indeed ignorant, we are indeed innocent. So that can be identified by all of us until we become evolved in our brains, which is not right at the birth. So you all know, when does the brain evolve? How long does it take for brain to evolve? So today you might be a very highly rational person, highly intellectual person, highly logical person, highly practical minded person, that you don't make nonsense. But we realize that we all have gone through the path of nonsense in earlier stages of life. So we always trade on the path of nonsense in all our lives. So we know how stupid we were when we were children. How we were crazy, cranky, and stupid when we were teenagers. And when you have crossed the youth, then you also realize what blunders you made in your youth, where you were unwise in your youth. When you cross your adulthood, you realize how stupid you were in your adulthood, what nonsense you did in your adulthood. So this is continuing. Life after life, life after life, life after life, we are going to continue all these nonsenses. All these stupidities will come again our way. We will be walking through the same path. And in all the lives we will be committing that. And only retrospectively we will realize, oh, I was not so wise then. This is going to happen in life after life, life after life. And therefore, we always go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So we are born as innocent children, innocent babies, and then we grow, we become intelligent, we become highly rational people, logical people, no nonsense people, but again we are going to do the nonsense in the next incarnation. So nonsense to sense is a constant back and forth movement, back and forth movement, back and forth movement. Nonsense to sense, sense to nonsense, nonsense to sense, sense to nonsense. This back and forth movement is going to continue. Therefore, the wiser people in Satsanga tell us, be dreaded of this. It is not proper to go helplessly, haplessly, hopelessly from nonsense to sense, and again the nonsense appears, and again go to sense, again nonsense appears, and again go to sense. If you are walking, if you put one foot forward, and before putting the other foot forward, if you take the front foot back, even if you do that for an hour, you will not have walked even a meter. If you walk back and forth, one foot forward, take that foot back. Take that one foot forward, take that foot back. So if you are going back and forth, you might do for 1 hour, you will not even walk a meter. We are not going to evolve by this. Alternating the nonsense with sense, and again nonsense appears, again overcome the nonsense, get to sense, again nonsense appears. So where are we going to walk? We are not going to evolve by the back and forth movement. So in satsang we are told about this. This is one of the ways of effectively telling us about how we won't evolve if we go through the process of life and death and birth and death and birth and death. It's only back and forth movement. We are all ashamed of what we did in our childhood. We are all ashamed of what we did in our earlier stages of life. If you are a teenager, you are ashamed of your childhood. If you are young, you are ashamed of your teenage. If you are adult, you are ashamed of your young age. If you are old, you are ashamed of your youth, adulthood. So there is always something that is beshaming us. And this beshaming us is not a good condition for us to really evolve our life. So this is one of the instances which I told you that satsanga tells us about what are we really. Because of cycle of birth and death, we are rotating and rotating and rotating and keep rotating and rotating and rotating, or will not go anywhere. So the point is, the life and birth death is the major culprit. Once you identify the sorrows, we try to identify the cause in somebody and something and some situation, and we say, because of this person I suffered, because of this thing I suffered, because of this situation I suffered. So we try to blame time, space, or person, or thing, or situation, and we think that is the cause of our sorrow. The real cause of the sorrow is that we are rotating it on the wheel of birth and death. And therefore, our philosophers considered the wheel of birth and death at itself as the culprit. And some measures were taken by them to really cross over the rotation. Anyway, I think that should be enough for the time being. We'll continue the discussion of this, the Moksha Purushartha, in our next session. Namaskar all of you.